Shalom. Thanks for joining me. Deuteronomy chapter 19. Remember, this is the words of Moses before he is about to pass away and he is turning things over to Joshua. But before he passes on, he is reciting the history of God's interaction with Israel and he is reciting all of the mitzvot, or all the laws, all the commands that God has given them, and telling them and admonishing them, obey the law of God, that it may go well with you. Here's a simple chapter about just some of those kind of laws. Let's join Moses as he's continuing to speak. Chapter 19, verse 1. When Adonai your God cuts off the nations whose land Adonai your God is giving you, and you take their place and settle in their cities and houses, you are to set aside 3 cities for yourselves in your land that Adonai your God is giving you to possess. Divide the territory of your land, which Adonai your God is having you inherit, into 3 parts, and prepare the roads so that any killer can flee to these cities. The killer who will live if he flees there is someone who has killed his fellow member of the community by mistake, who did not hate him in the past. An example would be if a man goes into the forest with his neighbor to cut wood and takes a stroke with the axe to fell a tree into the forest with but the head of the axe flies off the handle, hits his neighbor, and kills him. Then he is to flee to one of these cities and live there. Otherwise, the next of kin avenger, in the heat of his anger, may pursue the killer, overtake him, because the distance to the city of refuge is long, and strike him dead, even though he didn't deserve to die, inasmuch as he hadn't hated him in the past. This is why I'm ordering you to set aside for yourselves 3 cities. If Adonai your God expands your territory, as he swore to your ancestors that he would, and gives you all the land he promised to give to your ancestors, provided you keep and observe all these mitzvot I'm giving you today, loving Adonai your God, and always following his ways, then you are to add 3 more cities for yourselves besides these 3, so that innocent blood will not be shed in the land. So that innocent blood will not be shed in the land Adonai your God is giving you as an inheritance, and thus blood guilt be on you. However, if someone hates his fellow member of the community, lies in wait for him, attacks him, strikes him a death blow, and then flees into one of these cities, then the leaders of his own town are to send and bring him back from there and hand him over to the next of kin avenger to be put to death. You are not to pity him. Rather, you must put an end to the shedding of innocent blood in Israel. Then things will go well with you. The shedding of innocent blood. Can't have it if you're going to be my people, God says. If you kill someone by accident, we'll provide a safe place for you to live so that you will not be murdered by the avenger, because your blood is innocent blood and we don't want to shed innocent blood. But if you happen to be someone that hated this guy and you didn't kill him by mistake, you killed him on purpose, you're going to have the death penalty on you. And that's how we get rid of blood guilt, Moses says. All right. One simple line. This is interesting. Verse 14. You're not to move your neighbor's boundary marker from the place where people put it long ago, and the inheritance soon to be yours in the land Adonai your God is giving you to possess. One simple verse about don't move the boundary markers. So you're going to go into this land. You're going to possess this new land. We're going to divide up the land, and everybody is going to get land according to their inheritance. So you're going to put your boundary markers out on the corners of your land. And that is a sacred designation. You don't move the boundary marker because you want more land, or you want a little part of that land. So you just sort of move the boundary marker, and you think nobody will know. Well, God knows. God knows when you lie. God knows when you cheat. God knows when you steal. God knows when you're selfish, covetous. God knows when you cheat your neighbor. And he's saying, you don't move that boundary marker. You respect it. You know, that respect of private property, that's the principle in our modern day law. This right here He's the origin of that principle. Respect the boundaries. Don't move the boundary marker. Very simple. All right, the next verse, verse 15. This is interesting. One witness alone will not be sufficient to convict a person of any offense or sin of any kind. The matter will be established only if there are 2 or 3 witnesses testifying against him. This becomes a legal principle in those days where you can't just have one person make an accusation. That's got to be backed up by 2 or 3 witnesses. Now, it's interesting, starting in verse 16. This is interesting. If a malicious witness comes forward and gives false testimony against someone, then both the men involved in the controversy are to stand before Adonai, before the Kohanim and the judges in office at that time. The judges are to investigate carefully, and if they find that the witness is lying and has given false testimony against his brother, you're to do to him what he intended to do to his brother. In this way, you will put an end to such wickedness among you. Those who remain will hear about it, be afraid, and no longer commit such wickedness among you. Show no pity, life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot. You know, it's significant that at the trial of Jesus, there were a bunch of people came forward who gave false witness. It's interesting to me to think that someone as good as Jesus, there would be people, numbers of people, who couldn't wait to do something malicious against him. They firmly believed that Jesus deserved to die, and they were willing to do whatever it took to get him killed. They lied about him. You know, it's interesting to me. Here is the one righteous man on the earth, the man that loved, the man that healed the sick, raised the dead, the man that taught the truth. And there was no end to people who couldn't wait to kill him. And they were willing to lie in court to make it happen.